Good evening and welcome to the 9th episode this year of the Social Newsroom. My name is Mark Masai and I will be joined very shortly by my guests. First of all, I just want to appreciate that you have tuned in with us on time. Today, tumejaribu. We haven't started 5 minutes in, but you're in for a good show, an inspirational show, one that will push you to some action because we have two guests, waheshimiwa, young leaders who are taking a stand for a cause, not just for their constituents, but for many in the country. And these are issues that are faced by many. And the first guest that I'm honored to have and is already here with us is Honorable Janet Njeri Maina. She is called Gasheri to her people in Kirinyaga. She is a woman representative, and don't let that young demeanor fool you. She has gone up against so many in the previous election to end up as the winner and the woman representative for the people of Kirinyaga, Adoa Kirinyaga. And she is getting onto a 90-day campaign very soon. And it's going to be addressing matters of gender-based violence as well as matters of young teenage pregnancies, and as well as someone who is going to be joining us in the next few, just a bit stuck in the traffic, is Honorable Gloria Orwoba. Senator Gloria Orwoba is also has been making some headlines in the last few days because of her new found respect and campaign and stand to end period stigma. She'll be joining us in a bit, beg your pardon. And Dennis Okari sends his apologies, is not able to join us today, but he is well and will be joining us for the next episode. But join in on the conversation. We're here to really speak to leaders who are trailblazing and doing something different for their constituents and for the country. Asante sana, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you for
How does it sound to be called Mheshimiwa?
It sounds a bit strange. So I think all the time I have to grow into it. Sometimes I'm like, who is Mheshimiwa? I'm like, oh yeah, that's me, you know.
I mean, she is woman representative Kirinyaga at 28 years old. I think she's the second youngest in leadership position, save for Lynette Chakurir, who is Toto, the Bomet woman representative there, and she's 24. But nonetheless, a great fate that you've achieved to be able to become the woman representative. First of all, take us back to, in the sense, who your competitors were. You won by how many votes, so that people can respect and appreciate what you achieved?
I fought it out during the UDA nominations. We had a former county assembly speaker, Anne. We had a former chief administrative officer at the county, and we had Jane Mugo, the detective. And I can tell you, why are you laughing? I can tell you,
the detective.
It was murky. It was murky.
Yeah.
And I nearly lost my ticket because some people in the status quo were feeling that I should not have the ticket, or it should not be given to a young person who has no name. You know, nobody has ever heard of me in Kirinyaga County. I was just a small town, pro bono lawyer. And I mean, I didn't even have the chums to run the campaign or to fund the party.
Right.
But the president stood his ground, and he had promised us free, fair, and credible nominations, and I won the party ticket.
How did you gain his audience or even his trust in the first place?
I can't really say that I quite ever gained it, but for him, he was really open to just about everyone. I was working for the party as a young lawyer.
UDA.
And a young lawyers brigade, so I was giving my services pro bono for the party. So when I decided to run with the party, I think when they did the background check, they could see that a fact check that was actually contributing towards the party.
Yeah.
And I remember every time he'd come down to Kirinyaga, I mean, he knew the other ladies. He didn't know me, so he would mention them by names. I'd be like, oopsie, this is, you know.
And it's a big deal for the party leader to mention your name on stage. To mention your name
and to seem to know you, right? But then I just really hit it off with the crowd. And I just sell the agenda. Look, I'm young, I'm educated. You know, you told us to go to school to be the leaders of tomorrow. And tomorrow is here because, I mean, unless you're telling me to come back when I'm 50, right? So I think for me, it was really just setting the agenda and the tone. And people really just wanted a new face and new leadership in Kirinyaga County. And they're very supportive of young women. You remember when Martha Karol was first elected, I think she was 31 or 32 at the time. So they're really, it's a society that is not conditioned against young people. It's very supportive of young people.
Tell us, again, give us a context. The second runner-up, I mean, at least in the election competition.
Yes.
You won by how many votes, and the second person following you had how many votes?
I had 171,000 votes, and the second runner, the first runner-up, rather the second person was, I think, had 49,000 and some hundreds. So really, it was really a huge, massive support from the people of Kirinyaga County, and it was like a wave. You know, that's how politics come in. And I remember the CS for Trade, Moses Kuria, telling me, Njeri, for a county seat, you don't really ask for it. People give it to you.
Yes.
You know, they hear that people are giving this person, and some other person tells another, this is a person being given, and they just really decide to give it to you. So for me, I could also say there was a lot of support from the party leader. Now, after I won the party ticket, and the deputy president, and I really think that the people of Kirinyaga County just wanted change, and they just really wanted to see a new face in politics.
So was it the aspect of newness? This is someone new, someone exciting that worked for you? What gave you the victory? Besides the fact that they're saying there's a pattern of people giving it to you. So, I mean, 100,000 votes over the second runner-up, who's at 40,000 votes. That's a lot. It didn't just happen.
First, there was a factor that I am young. There's a factor that I am intelligent. And there's a factor that I am a good orator. So I'd be able to actually speak to the people. So I think, yes. So when you hit the three, it's just really good combination for a win. So for me, it wasn't, the parents were relating to me as their daughter, and the young people felt they could relate to me as a person who is near their age or at their age bracket.
Right.
So it was just it was just ticking the boxes for me. But I feel that also, I'm a very strong believer, and I feel that, you know, God just worked it around for me.
Right. And is there any point, looking back, that you felt this isn't worth it? Let me just go and pursue my legal career?
I don't think so. I've always been this person who runs on just getting things done to the very end. And I've just been very grounded on seeing results. And I remember my father brought me up and he kept telling me all the time, if you start something, then you have to see the finish of it. And for me, it was just every day, I was just telling God, just give me the grace to live every day, and just really push and ask for the votes and talk to the people and reach to as many people as I can. I remember 3 days, I think, to the election, I was like, what am I going to do with my life if I lose this, you know? Right. Of course, there was a troll online from quite a section of young people, you know, who wanted to troll me, and perhaps maybe some even fueled by my competitors. And there was just a lot of that. And but every day, I never thought about giving up. I thought about the end goal. I thought about seeing it to the very end. I wanted to know that I've given it my best shot. And if I lost or won, I just left that to God.
There's something you told me. You suffered a loss over the campaign period because you decided in October of 2021 that you want to run for office as woman rep for Kirinyaga. But something happened along the way when the campaigns were really catching momentum. What happened?
First of all, when I decided that I'm vying, I went and met my parents. They live in Kirinyaga County, Kibingoti, and I just told them that I'm vying, and they asked me which seat, and I told them county MP, and I could tell they're terrified. But then they've never learned to tell me no, because they know I've always been, you know, going for things and always shooting for the stars, you know. I mean, what happens? What happens if you don't reach the stars, but you shot for them? So what could happen if you actually reach the stars? And I remember my mom just told me, don't finish all your small, she put it small money. Pesa yako kidogo, you know, don't use all of it, right? And my father just told me, you know, maybe this is your path, and maybe this is what you were meant to be here for. And he told me, well, I don't like politics, and that's why I never joined politics in my entire life, even though I could have. But if this is your line, what I can do as a parent is support you and give you the very best. At some point, after my tea party, we did a tea party, and the funds were just, we didn't raise much. So I called him.
What was your target, and what did you raise?
I had targeted 2 million, and we raised 250,000. Bulk of that was given by my family, so I couldn't cry. So I remember calling my dad the following morning and just crying, and he was like, no, don't worry about it, you know. And he actually wanted to take a loan on some property that we own. And he had said, well, we take like 6M, we see where it's going to take us. And I told him, no, Papa, I mean, you've taken me through school. I'm an advocate of the High Court. you've given me so much, I can't allow you to take a loan. So I told him, we'll run with whatever funds we'll be having, you know, and we'll get wherever God wants me to get. But in March, on March 20th, last year, I just got a call from my brother and he was crying. And so I was like, what is happening? Why don't you tell me what's happening? He's like, who is with you there? And I'm like, I'm not with anyone. Yeah. I'm just alone in the house. It's like, who can you call? Either of your friends. And my friends were all fine, you know. And then he just goes, Mteja, and my other brother calls, same thing, who are you with, you know. And then people just start sending me messages. And someone just said, I'm so sorry that your dad had a bad accident, you know. And that is how I actually found out. And it was just...
others.
Yeah.
This is March, when the campaigns are really catching on.
Yeah.
What do you, okay, there's the mourning part of it, but what do you decide in terms of running for office? What was your next course of action?
The first thing was I just wanted to go home, you know. I wanted to see what happened, where he had the accident and all that. So then I think I reached a couple of my friends and they organized for someone to take me home. So we just drove home. I saw the scene. At that time, I'm not even thinking of anything. I really can't believe it because he was the one who was organizing everything for me, you know, the campaigns. And I recall we had talked in the morning. And he had organized some people who were coming to take my flyers and posters. He was really proactive. So he'd given some people and some funds here and there. And we were to speak at the time, actually, he had the accident, because it was around 1 p.m. And he was attending a function at the neighbors. So it was actually he had an accident right opposite my home. You know, so I just dropped down there and I remember the first thing I thought, I really can't stop. Whatever happens, you know, even if the emotions are just too much to handle, my dad always said you have to see it to the very end. So I thought in his honor, I really can't stop now. So the first thing I told my brothers and mom is, we are going ahead with the campaign. I know this is, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how I'll do it, but we're going to just move along with them. And my best friend had to move down to Kirinyaga for the entire period because I'd go during the day, I'd just be talking and smiling, you know, because you can't cry. People don't understand, they can't relate. Yeah. And at night, I'd just get to the house and just start, you know, just howling until the morning. And then I'd wake up, the routine. So it's pretty much that.
Pole sana for the loss. And I mean, even despite that loss, you managed to continue in his honor. And I'm sure where he is in the afterlife, he's proud of you, of his daughter having stuck the course and won. And I guess even more, he'd be pleased that you serve your constituents in Kirinyaga. And in hindsight now, what did you learn that you wouldn't do if you were to continue pursuing office or advise someone who's trying to gain political leadership, especially if it's a lady?
I think it's a bit different for women. You find that women are judged easily. You know, you're judged for hunger for anything. You know, hunger for power, for sex, for basically for anything.
What was some of the slander that was?
There was a lot of slander. I remember people saying that I was dating certain politicians at the county, and just because I'm on the campaign trail with them, right? And I was like, but men are doing that. Men are on the campaign trail with other men. So I mean, really, are you telling them that? But just because I was a woman and I was young, and people picked up pictures of me from campus in some jeans and a crop top, and they just say, oh, this is a slave queen, she's nothing to offer, you know. And I think people like to degrade women and demean them and just reduce them to the very bottom of the barrel so that they can discredit them. But I think for me, like I've said, I was brought up in a very grounded family, and my dad always taught me to first know yourself so people cannot tell you who you are. So for me, it was just, I was like, well, fine, you know, you can go on with it and I will live my life and that is me. I didn't even deny the picture, say, yeah, that's me, and that's a younger version of me, you know, and that is a crop top and those are pants, you know, and I am 19 at the time. What would you expect me to do? Right. You know, I can't take that back. So for women, I think it's a space where you really have to own your power and to not give it out to people. Because then if they think that when they post the pictures, they will you know, derail you or discredit you, then they can actually use that against you. I actually shared that picture on my wall and told them, look, I am not ashamed.
This is me.
This is me, and this has absolutely nothing to do with what I will offer at the National Assembly.
Right. And any regrets, especially from the lessons you've learned, because kuna watu sema kuna character development. Ulifanyiwa character development? Trusting
people. I was just new and just so trusting, and I'd meet people who would be like, well, I want to campaign for you. And you know, our county is quite big, you know, pretty big. So you really have people on the ground. So I had quite a number of people who were my troops during the day, but at night they'd go and camp at the opponent. I remember during the nominations, I actually sent some funds for mobilization, you know, to buy milk and all that. And apparently somebody just pocketed the entire amount, you know. So what I know is you really can't trust people just because they're smiling and they say, oh, you know, I'm going to do this for you and all that. You really have to know that the person who has your back is you first. And that is a thing that happens a lot in politics. You know, people are so cosmetic.
Yes.
You know, they'll be smiling at you. They'll be like, oh, I'm backing you up for this. I'm supporting you. But then they really are doing you dirty behind your back.
Right.
Yeah.
Ilichukua pesa ngapi hivi? Just tell us. I mean, it's not Kiara is listening, but you know, how much money did you use in this campaign? How much did it take?
Most of the money went to logistics, because I had a team of around 5, and I had cars for each one for each sub county, and you know, I'd be fueling them every day. I'd be paying the 5 people every day, and the drivers, the 4 drivers. So that's pretty much like 9. And the agents, you know, the county is big, so 700 agents. You're paying each maybe 2,000. So for the nominations and the elections and the trainings in between, maybe around 5 to 7 million.
Which is actually...
And that was pretty much logistics. I mean, I wasn't dishing out money, right? Maybe I'd go to a group and give them some kitty, 10,000 like that, but not dishing out money. I wasn't at all.
And that's actually the amount Dad wanted to take a loan on just to support your... He was really instrumental in this. What does Mom say now that you are mheshimiwa?
I think my mom is still settling in sometimes.
But you're still her daughter, of course.
Yeah. I'm her daughter. I mean, they even send me to like take the place to the kitchen and I do the dishes and I garden sometimes, and I still sleep in my old room when I go home. You know, I just want to feel real sometimes and just feel connected to that. I think for Mom, it's a lot to take in, because then people will flock in nyumbani and they're like, call her. You know, maybe I haven't returned their call. And then there's someone who actually gave a call. Mom gave me a call and she's like, I am here with this person who says that, you know, they know you, and, you know, the person talks, I'm here with your mom, Heshimiwa. Do you remember that, Nini, you promised my daughter? I'm like, surely. You know, it's a lot for her to take in, but she's taking, I think she's learning as we go.
Right.
And she really is sometimes, of course, sometimes I think she also can't believe that we really got here. I mean, it was the wildest dreams. It was a wild card, but
right. Yeah. And I think you've seen me, maybe people have seen me looking around, and we're just going to be joined by Senator Gloria Orwoba in the next few minutes. She's here. You mentioned you go back home, Geshage, or your home in Kirinyaga, and you sleep, you use the same room you grew up in.
Yes.
Because you want to feel normal. How has life changed for you now that you are honorable?
I pretty much don't have a social life, because you find that for young women, people want to tear you down, and social media is a really, really toxic space. So I'm very protective of my family and my siblings and my mom, and I really just want to like put them in a corner where they're not getting all this trash from, you know, people who just want to pour all the venom that they have.
Yes.
And so for me, I really used to love going out and just listening to music, singing at karaoke, dancing. And then I just went one day and someone said Kirinyaga, and I'm like, oh goodness, you know, they'll just film me dancing and someone is going to share on social media. And they're going to say, look at your woman rep, slay queen, woman rep, you know? I mean, those are the tags you get for young women. And it's so upsetting because we do so much.
Yeah.
You know, we do so much, and I'm happy that my friend Gloria is here. She can tell you it's just tough out here on the social space for women.
Yeah.
And we're trying to work around it. We'll be pushing for legislation in Parliament to ensure that at least, you know, Safaricom does not track the IP address of the people who post. So when you have a pseudo, you feel so protected, and you can say absolutely anything about someone. And for women, it's just hard. You'll find even your pictures of you swimming in Mombasa in a bikini, you know, it's terrible. So I really don't have a social life. I'm trying to work around it because I love my social life.
But you did say that in the run-up to the elections in your campaign, you had been advised against like dress code where it would portray you as a young lady and to wear something more respectable. But you went against that because you were telling people, hey, this is me.
Yes.
Take it or leave it. In the same length and breadth, aren't you able to tell people, hey, I am Honorable Njeri, but I am also human and I have a life, and it's good to embrace the human side of it?
I think that's what I'm trying to work around because I was very vocal. I had a YouTube, I was running a YouTube page. I was on TikTok, you know, I was on IG. My IG is actually flashed at the moment. So I was doing so much. So I'm trying to find a healthy balance, not overdo it, because at the end of the day, as an office holder, you really have to hold yourself to a certain capacity and level.
Yeah.
So I really want to just strike a balance and see where it works for me and for my people.
And let me bring in someone who, the last time we spoke, alikuwa ni political analyst. Now things have changed.
I'm still a political analyst.
Yes, you are, but now you're in it, kabisa. And you are Honorable Senator Gloria Orwoba. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
The last time we were in studio at NTV, when I used to be at NTV, and you were very passionate about the current government. So I'd say, you know, by extension as well, congratulations, because there's a lot that went into making it happen. She was just talking about her efforts in Kirinyaga as woman rep, the odds that were stacked against her from the primaries to actually getting the election, and she still made it, given the stereotypes that are there for against women and the youth. And I don't know what it was for you, because, and I think you are used to getting, you know, attacked online in the sense, not that you accept it, that you accept it, but you're no stranger to it. And I remember when we had you on as a political analyst, and you would, you know, give some very strong analysis and views.
Yes.
You were at the receiving end of, of KOT.
I got all the names. I got, actually, the presidential campaign really taught me to try and just stay the course, because I got all the names. I used to go on TV and you know, those morning political shows.
Yes.
And I totally believe in the Hustler Nation movement. I believe in Kenya Kwanza. I believe in the ideologies of UDA, and I believe in William Ruto. And it has never changed for like 3 years.
Yes.
So as a matter of fact, we were just harnessing it as we go. So I got a lot of backlash. There was a lot of negativity at that time because there was this strong belief that, you know, William Ruto was not going to go anywhere. Yeah. But for some of us, we knew, we prayed about it. We had, you know, being on the other side and you know the work that's being put in.
Yeah.
I was 100% certain. In fact, there are some videos of mine, like a year before, some 6 months before, where I'm saying we are ready for elections and we are going to win. And people were laughing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember. Like I was one of those who would disrupt your early mornings and tell you, join us on this discussion. And if I'm not wrong, you could just tell people, give them the context that you actually came, you believe so much in, you know, the government of the day that, I mean, you had another life. Just tell us from where you came, Kenya.
So first of all, I was coming back to join politics, and I knew that.
From where?
From Denmark. I came back. So I was living in Denmark. I was working there, but I knew I had paced myself the last couple of years, more than 10, that I was coming back to join politics.
Right.
I tried in 2017, but I came too late.
Okay.
So from the lessons learned in 2017, I knew that you have to come at least minimum 2 years before the elections. So this time around, I was like, hey, I must be there by 2019. So 2019, I quit my job in Denmark. Then I came to Kenya. Of course, the usual. Everyone said, oh, acha wakule pesa yake, nini, nini. I vied for the seat. I was listening to Njeri talking. And you know, she's one of the few people I admire because within our circles, because she campaigned as who she was.
Yes.
She didn't have to put a facade. You know, it was like, this is who I am. I want to lead you. Take me as I am, or just don't choose me. And fortunately, it worked for her, fortunately. Me, on the other hand, when I came back in 2019 and I went to vie in Kisii, in Bobasi constituency, I had to toe the line. The dress code, just everything.
Yeah.
Everything. In fact, some people joke. They say, if you look at my pictures and my videos when I'm on Nikokwa ground, it's like, and then you see me like maybe in Nairobi on the TV shows, it's like, who is this person? Because I had to sort of go and fit in to the stereotypes of Kisii, which is, you know, dress up, cover up completely, no trousers, the usual. There's certain things, go get blessings from elders, the men have to send you off, a lot of things.
And then there's the aspect of looking at your personal life.
Yeah, my personal life played a big role up because, you know, I vied in Bobasi constituency. That's my father's home.
Yes.
So, and of course I couldn't vie anywhere else because I'm married outside. I'm married in Denmark.
Yes.
So I used to tell them, I'm an nitishe kura Denmark. So you just have to accept me. I'm back at my father's home. And this is where naitisha kura. So that was sort of like a whole 3, 4, 5 months of just singing the same message so that they can accept, okay, she's vying from her father's home. Yeah. And she's married outside. That's why she has not gone to vie from her husband. And then there was a lot of things like, how many kids, why do you have one child? Because I have one child, which to them was a bit like shocking. And then they were like,
minimum.
Yes, you know, when they're like, na hauna mtoto utajua je maneno ya kuzaa na maneno ya kuangalia mama, you're like, but niko na mtoto. Oh, wangapi? You're like,
it's never enough.
It's never enough. Let me tell you, it is never enough.
Yeah. If
you could flash an image of me in Bobasi constituency speaking to the crowd, you would not believe it. We are like totally different. You go, ukienda kwa ground, sisi unaenda kwa ground.
Yes.
Those high heels you remove, you wear your long, I used to call them curtains, you wear your curtains. And then there was the issue of language.
Yeah.
So because I'm born, raised in Nairobi, but lived partly also in the village. So it was a bit of both. But of course, so my first fluent language is Swahili, and then English, and then Kisii. So the language also became an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like you must speak Kisii fluently in a certain accent.
Yeah.
So again, I spent so many months trying to convince them that I speak Kisii, I understand, but I'm not so fluent because of the fact that my father sent me to go and study. Now I've come back with everything I've learned. I want to
build the nation.
So I used to ask them, you know, all these leaders who you have elected who speak fluent Kisii, where have they gotten you to? Because in my constituency, development is, I would say, almost nil. Really, almost nil. And I always, I mean, you can sit the current MP for Bobasi constituency, and I will say the same thing. You know, the roads that have been there have been pushed by national government. Yeah. In terms of CDF, the focus has been on brick and mortar. So a lot of millions were spent putting up a school or two. But that's it. So attendance, you know, there's the kids, like I had a nutrition program which I was trying to show them that CDF can do so much more than just changing mabati za shule. Yeah. So I was trying to show them that the impact you should feel when you have your leader you elected, the moment they hold the kitty like this for CDF, they should be able to push some of those things. So I tried talking to the current MP and saying, you know, adopt my nutrition program. It was so nice. It was called Ujia Glow. Adopt it. Attendance for school-going kids went high. I used to give porridge and 2 slices of bread.
But he adopted it?
He didn't. He did not.
Okay.
So for me, it's like I feel bad because after a couple of even weeks of electing whoever we're electing, we go back to complaining. So now I tell my fellow, my community in Bobasi, you know, Sazingine, you need to listen. Just listen to. You can't do the same thing over and over and expect different results. Yeah. We've had the same type of leaders who think in the same way. Right. And if you now tell them a nutrition program, they're like, hey, it's too hard to manage, nini, iyo pesa, what? Because it's a lot of work, I better not get into it. I'm used to just giving bursary and changing mabati za shule. And if you tell them, hata mkibadilisha mabati zote, but kids are not going to school because of hunger. For them, it's like, but nimebadilisha mabati, you know. And then what else can CDF do? Literally, it's bursary or kubadilisha mabati. So I was telling them, because of the way it's structured, especially my current MP, you know, it's anchored around education. And there's so much you can do on education. A nutrition program in schools it still falls under education.
Right.
We are in the same caucus for women MPs in ICT. They can do something around taking technology to the grassroots. But you know, the problem is when you elect, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm also catching up so that by the time I'm at the age of 50, 60, I will not be the stereotype of an old leader. But the old leaders we have now, it's like unlearning, teaching them to unlearn what they think is the way is so difficult.
And they're stuck in their ways.
So stuck to the extent that you cannot convince, like an MP who's above 55 years, you cannot convince them into an innovative program. They'll tell you, napeana basari, na change mabati ya shule. That's it.
And what's your experience from what you're learning in Kirinyaga? Is that the same, that there's a conditioning from wanasiasa to even the electorate who now become expectant of certain deliverables, although there's much more that they can get from their representative?
I can confirm what she said. You know, it's really hard to teach an old dog new tricks. And you find that...
Says the 28-year-old.
I did a letter, an open letter to the president in regard to the appointment of the CASs. I think I sent it, I shared it with you. I'm not certain. And I mean, I was demanding that they give 50% to young people because the old status quo, you know, or the status quo, the people who have nothing new to offer Kenyans. And it's unfortunate because I tell people, I speak the truth, you know, Gloria knows me, anajua huko.
By the way, in Bunge, we are like, tumeshawekwa kwa kona fulani, the two of us.
And you know, they say we are new, we are noisy, you know, we are
mioto.
We are jumpy, you know. And I tell them, we are not toning down, you know, this is the new normal. I mean, we will be here, and we're here unapologetically. And you find that most of the time, there's a way that they're just conditioned to think that that is the way things should be, that is the way they operate, that is the way they work, you know. I think I remember I had an interview where I said I wanted to bring sustainable development to the people of Kirinyaga County and to venture into new ways, and that a county MP is not only limited to just, you know, buying umbrellas and gas cookers, and people are so offended by it. You know, I'm like, you're offended by being progressive, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, we are here because we have new ideas to give to the Kenyan people. And we believe in this space, and we're pushing as much as we can. But you find that the status quo is so, you know, they also huddle together, and they're really anti-change. And they're so offended by new leaders. They're so offended by young leaders because they know that we will bring in something that will challenge them. And, you know, people feel that, oh, this is a space and you're coming to take it, right? It's like I always say there is so much sexism in politics, and most of it is actually generated by women in politics. There is zero genuine support for women in politics from women in politics. And you see, of course, we sit in these caucuses and, you know, we have these boardroom meetings and we're doing launches and we're saying, oh, women leadership, women this. You know, you get into that space and you find it's so toxic, right? You know, and people just make off-the-cuff remarks about, oh, this one is new, they're thinking they're so learned, you know, they think they're so well-traveled and well-cultured.
Atajua kwa ground.
Atajua hajui, you know, ata yeye atatone down. But we're just us, we're being real. Gloria is pushing the narrative. I am from my end, you know, and you find that people want to box you. You know, I'm certain kuna watu wametuweka tu mahali.
Yes.
And that is a fact. But we want to come and pretend like we support women. And I really say, if you do not support women from a genuine corner, stay off that conversation.
Right. Yeah. So even women, you say, working against themselves.
But you know, Njeri is putting us in trouble, or rather now.
But is she saying the truth, though?
I'm always, every single time I'm with her, I'm like, Annie, we are now going to be in trouble. But for real, what she's talking about, so maybe because we are, I mean, it's my first time in parliament. And it's your first time in parliament. Sure. So we are actually, our experiences are similar. And what she's talking about is you'll find, personally, most of the support I've gotten in parliament is from the younger parliamentarians.
Right.
And very few older parliamentarians or experienced politicians like Beatrice Elachi. Beatrice Elachi has been very supportive, and she's always telling me, oh, stand your ground. What? Very few here and there. Like I can, like a handful of politicians who are women have actually supported me, not only on the current things like from when we started.
Yeah.
But majority of it is what she's talking about. Like literally you appear as if you're being progressive in giving an idea. Enemy number one, taken out of trips, taken out of what, taken out of meetings, oh my God, things are happening, you're just following in social media, you're like, guys, that was, when was that? You're sort of like, uyo hatutaki kumuona.
Right.
And then, and the worst thing about that is, so what it does, it's formed like a divide in parliament where now we just tend, you know, you go with your tribe.
Yes.
Yeah. So like me, when Njeri calls me, I'm like, hey, I'm going. That's something that I know.
Right.
If someone else calls me, I'll be like, are they trying to trick me into something?
You're so skeptical.
We're back in high school, by the way.
Right.
We are literally back in high school. Sisi tuko monos, kuna form 3s na form 4s, na kuna prefects wa form 4. who must, you know, protect their territories.
Yeah.
You've mentioned something about the women who, the older ones, not too helpful, except for a handful, but they're those who are actually against you. You made some headlines a few days ago, actually, and in Parliament. And when you turned up...
When I had my period.
Say it.
It's not
you could
so
say it better.
I had my period and I was bleeding. And then I happened to have an accident that stained my clothes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That was the headline.
Yes. Oh, yes, that was the headline, yes. If we have the pictures, and I'll just ask the team behind the scenes to show that picture, that still picture, as you were walking in the precincts of Parliament.
Yeah. And
you've been thrown out.
Yes.
One of those who brought it up that you were out of order was actually a lady.
Yeah.
For those who probably living under a rock and do not know you for what happened the other day, just take us back to that day. What happened?
So, in very short, I had my period, and it started. And I stained my suit when I was in the car. And then I got off, and there was a lady at the parking. She ran up to me. She was like, you need to go back to your car. Like, this is not the day. When I turned, I saw I'd stained my trousers. So, and then I actually wanted to go to the car. Then I thought, no. I have a bill that I'm already working on that is supposed to be ending period shaming, that's supposed to be ending period stigma, that's supposed to be giving free sanitary towels. So why would I go back to the car? I wouldn't. I'm just going to go to the toilet, put on a sanitary towel, and then go on because it's the first day in Senate and I need to be there. Like, that's not a valid enough reason to miss a whole day, first day in Senate.
Yes.
So, and actually I was in the house for a while, for maybe up to half an hour. And visibly so, people could see that I had stained my trousers. So it wasn't even an issue until the lady senator brought it up. And actually before she brought it up, she raised it with me because we were sitting like 2 seats from each other. Okay. And she was like, what's going on? Like, why would you do this? Like, she started lecturing me. And so for 2 reasons. First, we are not necessarily friends. So it's like, why are you lecturing me? Yes. Just stop. So there was that approach of me being defensive. So we were just talking. And I was like, like whispers. And then I said to her, no, if you have a problem with it, this house is as good as your house as it is mine. So raise it with the speaker. I sincerely didn't think she would do it. She did. And she was cheered on by Senator Halwale. Yes, my sister, go ahead, go ahead. These men, let me tell you, they just wanakutumbukiza hivi ndani ya maji moto alafu they watch you there boiling. Right. Because I always said, the whole time when I assessed it, if Halwale had an issue, why didn't he raise it? You know why he didn't raise it? He knew it was wrong. Yes. Politically, morally, everything about it was wrong, and he didn't want to be the one to raise it. So he found a woman to cheer on and say, my sister, bring back sanity to the house. She fell for it. Right. She did. And then she went ahead and raised it, which I thought, the whole time, if you look at the clips and you look at, I'm just shaking my hand like, oh, my sister, why would you do that?
Right. Did you feel this
So-
was someone working, a woman working against something that should be?
No, for me, I didn't feel it like that. Maybe because I know her personally.
Okay.
So maybe that was a bias that I have because she has her own beliefs. We are like day and night.
Yeah.
So for me, I took it as her, as a person. Not even as a woman, because I know her as a person. So for me, I took it like, of course, Senator Tabitha Mutinda would stand and say, this is immoral. Because as a person, that's who she is.
Yeah.
She has her own she's like solidly grounded. She has her beliefs. She was brought up in a background that, you know, stands for the things she believes in. So for me, I didn't take it like a woman is attacking me. I just took it like, for sure, if there would be any woman in this house, it would be her.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't take it badly. Actually, the whole time I was just like, can't you people finish this session so that we can go home, shower, and change?
Right.
Because that would be the ideal situation. When that happened,
Because the notion, I'm sorry to cut you short, the notion you were in all white is that this was all planned to make a statement, shock effect, which it delivered.
People would like to believe
like
that.
it was just maybe something, you know.
People would like to believe that because, you know, when you are told, it was a prank, you'll be like, oh, right?
Yes.
You'll be relieved. And you'll be okay with it because it was a prank.
Right.
But if you're told it was real, you don't know how to feel about that because it's real. Because that's what happens to people, to women, to girls. So everyone would rather think it was a prank. Because if it's a prank, it's acting. If it's acting, then it doesn't exist in the real world. And that's why everyone is so stuck on, it was a prank, it has to stay a prank, because then we know our girls are not suffering the same fate.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I, you know, I can't change that. You know, Ledama said, oh, Gloria is faking it. I was like, come and check. Please come and check if I'm on my period. Because at the point where now a man who's not in your body is now even claiming you're faking. This is now, when you look at and now I know it sounds like I'm stretching, but when you look at sometimes when a woman tells you, I really don't want to go to the club. I really don't want you to sit here. I really don't want you to kiss me. And the guy will keep saying, you want it, you want, right? And it will end up as a day trip. So when you have Ledama actually saying, we know that Gloria is faking it, with what authority?
Yeah.
Right.
With what authority? How do you know I'm faking it? Have you come and checked and seen, my goodness, there's no bleeding coming out of here, so you're faking. So it also propels a lot of things, because that's how, generally, the boy child is conditioned to think. And I can promise you, if there was a situation where the men in Senate were now allowed to say, they would all stand and say, you're faking, you're fake. Let me tell you, it would be a whole thing of, let us strip you down so we can see for real if it's real. Because how else will you know? When a woman tells you, I do not want to have sex with you, right? Then you say, oh, you're faking. I can see how you're smiling at me. It is you. That's you who's deciding. When I tell you I'm on my period, and you start telling me I'm faking it.
When you saw this, what came to your mind? When
No, actually, you know, Gloria and I are so much alike. So for me, it wasn't a shocker. And I actually shared it on my wall.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because I believe that we need to canvass support around these things. And it was really unfortunate that KWOPA, the organization that you know, purports to speak for women in Parliament, did not even run that campaign. Because for me, that was a real issue. It is a real issue right now, even as we speak. And if you remember, the Kenya Kwanza government promised that we will give free sanitary towels to all school-going girls. And you find that if Mama Mboga in Ushago is telling you that they need 100 bob, 200, right now a packet of pads always is around 100, right? It has, I think, 10 pads only. And you find that 8 pads, right? And you find that perhaps some of the girls, maybe they extend their days, so maybe you'll need 2 packets. And you find that most of the time, the people who really can't afford that. So what Gloria was sharing for me was very, very on spot, and it was something that we need to have a conversation about. And I feel that, like she has said, of course, men really want to speak for women a lot. And there's a lot of stigma around female reproductive health. I remember we've had conversations around things that affect young girls in maybe schools, UTI, you know, and all that. And you find that from the local perspective, they really cannot even tell their mother or their father, you know, or whoever is their guardian that, you know, they have something or an issue going on.
Because of the shame?
Yes, because of the shame around it. And people will just say, oh, you're having sex with so many people, right? UTI is a urinary tract infection, you know. It isn't even caused by having sex. You know, there's so many things that happen to the female body, you know, maybe sometimes even what you eat, maybe perhaps the weather, perhaps maybe you wore a panty that's a bit, you know, not dry or dampy. Sharing maybe a bucket with someone who had UTI. So you find there's all these conversations that really men sit behind. They don't know what's happening. They don't care to know, but then they really have something to say about it, right?
Yeah. An authority.
An authority. They're the authority.
You know, men talk to me about it like, I'm
yes.
like, hey, now your last period, when did you have it? Yes. You think like they're having...
They want to be authority on it, and that is why
Tell us more.
We're running the campaign on mental health, SGBV, and teenage pregnancies in Kirinyaga County. We'll be launching on 4th of March, and we'll be running it for 90 days. And mental health, we have a really, really good legislation on mental health, and you find that there is no framework for it.
Yes.
You know, it was signed into law by the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. The county government should even have. They should work on a framework for the same and adopt it at the county level, because health is devolved, right? We find that there is absolutely nothing happening at the county level. In the 21st century, mental health is a real issue. It is a major issue. It is a conversation we need to have, not only with the older generation, but even with our young people. You find that there's a child as young as 8 years who committed suicide in Kirinyaga County. They had even dug their own grave. So by the time an 8-year-old is figuring out that they want to die, that they do not want to live anymore, that they actually dig their own grave. I mean, why has it gotten there? Where are we heading as a society? We need to mitigate these issues before they blow up. But then people just want to keep on piling like they are piling up there. You know, the period shame and the female reproductive health and all that. So we really need to face things head on. And with the campaign, I mean, I was so supportive, I was so happy that there was someone who I could relate to, because I am, you know, I'm a trailblazer. I don't believe in keeping quiet or just, you know,
being
toning
conventional.
down. I am not toning down at all. So I mean, for people waiting for me to tone down, they're going to wait. It's going to be a long 5 years.
So there's some support, but were there any, even from close people? Let's even say, because you're on phone call basis with the president. Alikupigia akisema hasa.
He was very supportive. Very.
How did he react? What did he say? The president.
More like tuliongea maneno tunaongeza budget. So supportive to that extent. The budget is 2023-24 is going to 1 billion. You know, there are people.
This is specific to what? Just expound on that budget.
Sanitary towel provision for schools.
Okay.
There are people who are actually taking that particular incident and wanting to turn it to a disciplinary issue with the party. Yeah. So it's one thing to be taken on court and called all these names and all the ones who don't believe in what the message we are trying to pass. And it's another thing with someone actually going out to say, you need to be removed from that particular seat. And I see that a lot. And I see it a lot. It's funny, I see it a lot from women. Because the whole idea, to me it's very strange. Let me tell you, this year, and it's just, I'm living a very, my eyes are just open, because I'm like, wow, people do that. Wow, people do that. But in a way, I kind of think that competing interests, personal interests, are put before now the bigger picture. And just like Njeri said, I was also disappointed. I didn't want to say it, but now I'm telling you, when you sit with Njeri anywhere, just know, trouble.
When you say, wow, yeah.
I was a bit disappointed that Kenya women parliamentarians, the KEWOPA, did not speak on it. I belong to KEWOPA by virtue of that. I am a parliamentarian who's a woman. I wasn't happy about that, especially because a week later they were tagging me on all their things to ride on the wave. And you know, I called them, I told them, please stop this, just stop. Because
unless you're supporting, don't.
I was even like, just stop. It's just morally and ethically just wrong. Just stop it. And
at the moment of reckoning, they were not there for you.
Not even that. You know, as the Kenya women parliamentarians, we should be pushing on issues. You see, for instance, that the two campaigns sort of came at the same time. And I could have also said, I don't care about this dress code thing. Personally, I don't believe in pushing campaigns that are based on dress codes. Because as nominated senators and as women senators or women parliamentarians, we're already called flower girls. The first thing you think of a flower girl is the dress code, right? And for me, I was like, I know the campaign behind it is really Buy Kenya, Build Kenya, and I support that 100%. I'm wearing Vivo. This is Vivo. I always support that. But, you know, the whole notion of that our first campaign as Kenyan women parliamentarians would be based on dress code. I was like, guys, I wish we picked on something else, then came back with the dress code. But since they went with that, I was very supportive. The whole first week of Bunge, I came with my Kenya, Buy Kenya, Build Kenya, and whatever, despite the fact that I felt a bit about it, right? They didn't feel a bit about my campaign or period poverty. They outrightly put out a statement without putting out a statement that they do not support the campaign against period poverty. And for me, when I'm having people like Al Jazeera, AMREF had a whole statement supporting that we must take intentional steps to end period poverty. We've had BBC, we've had like media houses that are out there bigger than anything, pronouncing themselves on the same. Organizations like universities,
believe even
in London,
Amnesty International.
Amnesty International, these people coming out and saying, wow, this is the advocacy we need to do, and let us end period poverty and period shaming. And then the organization I'm domiciled was silent,
right?
But tagging me on their dress code campaign. So, you know, sometimes it's not that we are trying to be negative, and this is why I say sometimes you need fresh blood in, because they'll put some things in perspective that you didn't even think about.
Right.
Because for me, I'd be like, yes, let's go, let's prioritize, let's be loud about everything. In fact, how can we do the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya, and somehow merge it into the period poverty thing? Let's have a red, let's put on red vitenges to just say for this particular day, we are actually going to now push on the stigma of staining your clothes. Whatever, you know, there's a way you can. It's about collaboration and not competition.
Right.
But I felt, and I'm telling you from inside, you know, when you send us to parliament, people think, sasa umefika, so you're okay. No, sasa umeingia siasa ingine. Inside there is my friend, you just need, I'm putting my head above water right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And Kevin Owino, he's watching and says, here's to championing the end of period shame and period stigma. Yaya Noor saying, hi from Vancouver, Canada. You have some international viewers. Yes.
Vancouver.
Vancouver, Canada.
Yes, please send us pads. Tell them to send us pads.
There you go. Please send Gloria Orwoba pads. The campaign that she's on is hashtag free the period.
Reach out to me on any
and
of my social
hashtag
media.
end period poverty. If we can, the people in the background can just show the holding image that we have of Mheshimiwa. And that is why some people feel that it was choreographed, because you jumped on and made it a thing.
Oh, I jump on. When I do something, ask Njeri, we are in the Women MPs in ICT caucus. Me, I give it 100. Today we leave this studio, you tell me, Mark, in the next 4 days, there's something that I'm passionate about, work with. People will even think I came for this show, choreographed for whatever it is we are doing.
Right.
The difference is we have young, and Njeri will tell you, we have young parliamentarians who actually have come from corporate world. So we know about delivering on deadlines.
Yes.
We are, like, the corporate culture is like inculcated in us.
Right.
So when we come to Bunge, you sort of find yourself back on the corporate culture. I saw you, by the way, doing your bursaries at 11 p.m., trying to make sure that
everything was in order.
It was okay.
Right.
And I'm like, you see, that's the difference. Probably another parliamentarian who's on their third term will leave it to their PAs or whatever. They'll be like, pangeni hawa watu venye munajua. But she was there, like, you know, burning the midnight oil. So it's just a different culture, and I think it comes with now the different kind of breed that you have coming into parliament.
Okay.
And you'll see that in Senate. We have younger senators in parliament, even the male senators. And the difference is clear. You can see they want to act on things swiftly. You know, they want to be effective in terms of, we're here for 5 years. 5 years is a short time.
Right.
I feel, and I could be wrong, and I don't have anything against the older parliamentarians, but my feeling is that for them it's like, you don't have to worry about much. It's not the end of the world. Tutapanga hiyo. Ati Kericho, tutaenda Kericho hata next week. Hiyo maneno ya tea farmers. Ngojeni kwanza. So, and you know, you're like, no, this is wrong.
Yes.
We need to go there. We need to put on safeguarding. I'm ready. You're like, you're calling your driver.
Ms. Momanyi says, I love the courage. Continue standing your ground. Continue speaking your truth. And I'll have you tell us a bit more about how you're going about it. what you're hoping to get, and perhaps even where people can get you to give you the physical pads or even send support. But to you, Mheshimiwa, you are on 3 fronts. You're launching on the 4th, you said, 4th of March, a 90-day campaign on 3 fronts, if I'm not wrong: mental health, teenage pregnancies, and gender-based violence. Why the 3, not 1? Do you feel that wouldn't it scatter the your resource and energy? Or is it because they're the most urgent from your standpoint as Kirinyaga Women Rep?
It is a really, really urgent, the 3 of them are really urgent issues in Kirinyaga. And you find that one affects the other. You find that most of the time we have teenage girls who feel now, they're alone, they're depressed. And then, of course, they feel that now they have to stop their education. Because you find that from the local perspective, if a teenager has a child, then most likely they will not go on with the education.
Yeah.
And you find that now they're seeing their peers, they see them continuing with school, so they have these stresses. And we're really trying to manage the issues around that. And SGBV is something that has been running on for quite so long. I think Kirinyaga and Kisii have, they're sort of like, Kisii is always on the higher end, really.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you guys always win on everything.
Thing would come here.
They always win on everything, right? But SGBV has been an issue that has been there for so long. And mental health is something that has now become so prevalent. I think we actually now nearly at par with Kisii. Because you either see Kirinyaga on news, on suicide, or you see Kisii on the news in regard to that. And I felt for me, it was a campaign that needed to be run on the same front. Because we want to be talking to the people and have very limited resources. We have an allocation of 7 million per constituency, and that fund has to go to bursary allocation. There has to be, whether you like it or not, it is just set there in the regulations. There has to be an allocation for women economic empowerment. And then now there's civic education, which is like quite a fraction, less than 10% of that amount. And you find out there's an allocation for the county project that you want to do. For the campaign, I can only do it under civic education. Right. So if I decide to do the campaigns on different fronts, then I will not have the funds to ensure that I have run the course and had maximum impact. Because for me, I really would like even to put up structures. You see, if you put a structure on mental health or maybe a rescue center, it has running costs, right? It has maybe electricity bills, it has maybe perhaps food, it has maybe the employees' security and all other these factors that come into play. And you find that if you do not have a partner who's not coming on board to shoulder that, most of them actually have been done, but now they're not even empty. They're not even active. So for me, what I can do is awareness. And if I run it on one single front, we won't really do much on the ground. So I want to reach as many people as I can. We'll be targeting schools, women's groups, and churches, because that is the easiest way to find people organized in a manner where they will not require a lot of resources. Because then if you call people for a meeting or maybe to educate them on anything, I can assure you that from the village perspective, they will expect you reimburse them for that day. Right. And that is really expensive. I don't think I'm able to run that because we have a budget of 5 million and the campaign, the allocation for civic education for the 2 quarters is only 1.2 million.
Right. Let me ask this in terms of mental health. First of all, and it might be a misconception from my part, mimi msewa Nairobi, sijui vile kuko Kirinyaga, but there was the notion of mental health, ni uenda wazimu, umetumia madawa, madre, nini, so just sober up. It's associated to drinking. Ama, saizi, hizo ni ugonjwa za wazungu. Is it appreciated for what it is, mental health, the concerns on the ground?
Is not appreciated, and that is what we're trying to remove, just like Gloria is doing with her end period poverty campaign. We're trying to take away the stigma from mental health, because a lot of people feel that you have it because you don't want to take the pressures of life. This is life, like manage. People help people manage, but there's so many other issues that cause a mental health breakdown. Perhaps maybe even a hormonal disorder. Perhaps the pressures of the current state of life, the state of the economy right now, we know that it is not in a good place. Maybe drug and substance abuse. So there are all these other factors, and we need to take the stigma away from mental health for people to really appreciate on the ground. And the only way we can do that is not by having those conversations like on such a platform. We have to take it to the people on the ground. We have to really walk them through the process and talk to them and have specialists talk to them about it so that they can perhaps also know that, you know, it is not only about maybe umeruka kichwa, ama wewe manage maisha yako. We find that there are so many other pressures at the local perspective. I visited a constituent of mine randomly, right? So the wife is really unwell, just got a stroke and all that. I think has been in bedridden for 4 months. And you could tell he really is struggling even to express himself, talk about it, and just has so much to do. So that is also something that could contribute towards his mental health. And we really need to take it away and not think of it as easy ni magonjwa za wazungu.
Yeah.
We have to have a conversation because otherwise it will blow out of proportion and will be so terrible for this nation. You can't lead people who are not, and I say mental health is like any other sort of health. If your arm is hurting, you really cannot just continue ignoring it, right? So if you have any issue and they've gone beyond now the normal regular stress that we have, then you need to get attention, you need to speak to a therapist, you need to speak to maybe, if it's gone too much, a psychiatrist, and you know, we get recommendations for that so that we see how we can help each other. And that is why I've said it's so important for the county government to set the framework. We have the legislation in place, but the framework is lacking to support mental health in Kenya.
I'll be a bit careful here because I'm dealing with an advocate of the High Court, but let me be the devil's advocate in this case. And with mental health, climate change, these are very popular topics of late. And nothing wrong with leaving a legacy, but people hop onto such campaigns so that they can draw funding to someone who's looking in from without, saying, huyu anajipanga tu ndo apate funding. Kusema ukweli, some people can misuse people's misfortune to make a fortune. What do you say to that?
What I can say is that I've always been very vocal about it, even prior to politics. So it's not something that I'm starting right now. And for climate change, I think for me it would be a matter of duty. You know, we have to mitigate climate change. And for SGBV, mental health and teenage pregnancies, I have to do it, Dennis. There's no way around it. I am the county MP, Kirinyaga County. I'm actually supposed to look out for women and for, you know, who are the highest number of people affected by SGBV, and youth, 18 to 35, who are the people who've been affected by mental health. And I have to look out for the young girls because it is my duty. So whether people say I'm looking for funding or not, I really have to do it. And I really just will leave it to whatever they have to say about it. Because I'm not writing on it because it's a web. I have to do it.
So siwe kujiamulia mental health ni issue Kirinyaga, it is actually an issue.
It is an issue. We actually got a proper database from the county commissioner of Kirinyaga County. We had a conversation. I remember the first time I got elected, I actually paid him a courtesy call, and that is the first conversation we had. Mental health. How is the data? How can we help? You know, what can we do?
Okay. And umenita Dennis. Dennis,
yeah,
you see,
like, Dennis,
people miss you.
Dennis
but let me use this opportunity to ride on a campaign. I am not my hair. We might have the same hairstyle, but we're different people. So I might ride on a bald man's foundation here or something. I'm just on a light note. But to you, Gloria, and amusing ourselves, that's an account on YouTube. And they ask, Gloria, your campaign is great. Success starts with dignity and all girls need to walk with their heads high. However, don't you think fundraising from the public is a bit daunting at this point where we find ourselves as a country?
What are the other options? I would pose that question to them because I'm very much aware of the budget allocations. By the way, someone came and said, "We na hii activism yako rudi kwa NGO world." Because that's where I came from, right? And I was like, you know...
No,
by the way, Kenyans on Twitter. But let me tell you, when you meet them on the streets, they do not have the guts to open their mouth and say that. So someone said to me, UDA took an activist. Instead of legislating, you are now being an activist in parliament. Without them doing research to understand that actually the part of legislation I've done.
Yes.
Now I'm next on the advocacy. And I said to them, I wish more activists would join politics. Because what that does is that the activists who are Kina Boniface Mwangi, you people should have elected those people. They come into parliament, then they realize above and beyond my advocacy and my activism, I need to go through the back channels of parliament, pass through the legislation, make sure I have the motion, make sure I have the, and then understand that once that is passed into law, we have some law like the mental health law. You know, what do you do after the law is passed? I have to push to have the framework. So I would say, first, the NGO world exists to fill in a gap that government cannot reach. As of now, government cannot reach the full population for two reasons. One, there is no legislation. The legislation that is there is very ambiguous. And what I'm trying to do is state categorically that you will provide to all schools. And not only all schools, so that you provide once and then you disappear for 4 years. You will provide every other, like if you're going to do it once a year, you will make sure that every girl who is at puberty in school will have enough pads for the year. That's one thing that is not stipulated in the legislation.
And a concern on that, as you continue with that point, is the utilization of the funds, if and once they're made available.
That's
to
not what
actually follow through that.
Now that's what I'm dealing with. In fact, they should be asking me, because people have been saying, but there's already a law.
Yes.
If there's already a law, how come it is not working? One, the law is not clear. In fact, one of the lawyers, Nyinyi Wakili wa kusema, the law is very clear, the law is very clear. One of the lawyers had the guts to come to my Facebook page. And you know, sometimes when I have, like, I'm at the reception and I'm like, hey, let me just read what is happening. I read those things. And they were like, we have a legislation under the Education Act, there's an amendment, blah, blah, blah. And akaziandika. Na nikamwambia, okay, now tell me, how frequent is this distribution? It's not in that draft. What is the budget allocation? What percentage? It's not there. How many schools? Who stipulates the schools, even if it's not all the schools? Who decides that these are the government schools we will go? Yeah. Where is the legislation? Where is the legislation? And forget budgetary and who decides and what. Where is the legislation of if there is a shortage of funding because government cannot go? What are the mitigation? How do we partner with the civil society? Even if that doesn't need to be a legislation, where is the regulation? Because I sit in the committee of delegated legislation where you can now bring regulations and say we are trying to mitigate ABCD, here are our regulations. So there's still a lot to be done in terms of legislation, which that's what I'm doing. And unfortunately, because menstruation is taken as, wacheni kutuweke hizo vitu ni za wamama, that is how the law was drafted. Like, just add this one paragraph into the Education Act and leave us alone. And yet, it's supposed to be a stand-alone act, because if you look at even issues on procurement, it was domiciled in the Ministry of Education. Why? Why? Because at that time, the interest was with the people in the Ministry of Education. There is no legitimate answer that you can tell me that Ministry of Education is buying sanitary towels. Why are you buying pads? Like, that is not your core. That is not your mandate. So issues of gender should be left at the gender desks, at the gender ministry, at the gender offices. And I thank God that the president understands that. He's already given a presidential directive to move that thing from education back to gender.
Okay.
So even this, but you see, to the common mwananchi, hizo ni mavitu zenu munaongea huko. At the bottom line ni, pads zinakuja ama zikuji. So now when someone asks me, fundraising from the public, number one, don't send me money. God has blessed me enough. God has blessed me enough. I always tell people, and I used to say this during campaign when I was showcasing how to use CDF. You know, I have worked out there. I actually prepared to come in and join politics. And preparation means that you knew you were going to spend money. So for me, hakuna pesa ya mtu nimeiba na hakuna pesa ya mtu ninataka. Even when I was coming here, I told you, Mark, I better find sanitary towels downstairs.
There's a promise of 10,000 worth of pads, from the social newsroom and
so that my driver can put them in the car, stuff them wherever we go and distribute. Because for me, the end game, when I meet anyone, they're like, unatuletea pads lini? If you can, in fact, what I'm working on now with some of the partners is pads dispensers and sanitary towel banks, so that no one is trading money. No one is trading money. We go, we have a bank, it is in so-and-so place for that county, for this county, for whatever county. The only thing us we are interested in is our girls need to get the sanitary towels. Now, for the issue of the procurement, and I want to highlight this, you'll find right now, as it is, the budget is in Ministry of Education for this last quarter. Basic questions. yes, they're following the 2015 Procurement Act. And in there lies things like AGPO has to be followed so that our youth and women get tenders, right? And in there lies things like people with disability also have to get tenders. Do you know what is happening? These same people, youth, women, people with disability, they go out, they register companies. They import Chinese pads. So our local manufacturers here, Tarakaniti has closed. There's no business. First of all, the products, importing the raw material for the product of sanitary towels, that one is still taxed. But the company owned by the youth who is going to import from China is getting tax-free sanitary towels. So there's like some weird twist around it. Remember, period poverty,
Yep.
The only issue we have period poverty is because there's poverty. So to deal with poverty, first of all, we have to ensure anything we are doing is pushing the local manufacturers. So companies such as African Cottons, the one in Tarakaniti, all these local manufacturers for pads, we should be figuring out within the regulations of procurement for free sanitary towels to schools, how are they being boosted? Because if someone gets a tender, if you go to Mlolongo and you see when they get they call it Ministry of Education, MOE tender for pads, they employ over 2,000 casual laborers. 2,000 casual laborers, the one thing you're doing, you're dealing with poverty. Once you're dealing with poverty, those people are able to buy pads.
Yep.
So, but if we're saying, let us push forward youth and people with disability and women, and they're just setting up companies to bring in pads from China, we'll forever be working on period poverty. And now those are the things that I'm trying to legislate. But the activism in me, because I'm from the NGO world, I will still shout about it. And I can tell you've asked us something about people saying she's riding on climate change so that she can get funding. I've had a lot of those concerns from people. And I've told them, go on my social media pages and tell me when I started dealing with period poverty. 2008, when I gave birth, 2008, you will see as late as, actually early 2008, I'm distributing sanitary towels. My own campaign, when I was pushing for the alternative programs that we could have under CDF, I was giving sanitary towels in Bobasi Constituency for the last 3 years. Because I know the issue on teenage pregnancies, the issue on HIV prevalence in our teenagers, the issue on school dropouts and early marriages. The moment you get your period in some of these areas, unatafutiwa bwana raka, because we don't want to deal with your periods.
Yeah.
Now your husband can deal with that, and the best way, he will make you pregnant so that you don't get periods. So you see, those issues they are very intertwined.
Right.
And for as long as we're talking about teenage pregnancies, I can promise you we're talking about period poverty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not about, and by the way, yes, please donors. For those NGOs that are working, there are many good NGOs that are working on period poverty and ending period poverty and the period. I am glad that they're now telling me, at least it has brought back the conversation, and the donors are now willing to support provision of sanitary towels.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to do it as Gloria Orwoba alone. And the government cannot do it alone. If you do the budget of pads for 1 year for all schoolgirls in government schools, we can't.
Right.
We're not there yet.
Let me not do a bit of a quick fire here, because it seems we touched a nerve. Made discussion, mental health, with ending poverty, period poverty, and period shame. And this ujamaa hajaandika jina, ni ameandika uchinku, but anasema mental health cannot be solved with a dysfunction health system. Hizi campaign ni drama too. Functional state is the solution, but the MPs are not doing their supervision work. What do you say to that?
Interesting, and I think it's unfortunate that people from the outside sometimes can have a really, really disillusioned view of the work that we do at Parliament. We already have the legislation in place. So basically right now it's just working on the framework, and the only way to educate people about something is through civic education. If someone in Kirinyaga County does not know perhaps causes of mental health, right? If you narrow them down and just state it to them, they will be informed to make better judgment of anyone dealing with mental health in future. If you do not speak to a young girl in Kirinyaga County and tell her, for the teenage pregnancies, we are running a campaign dubbed Cheza Ball, Epuka Ball, and we have all these teams of female led teams and we have the young boys teams, and they're coming and they're going to be competing, and we're going to be talking to them about that. If you don't have these young people and empower them with information, tell them, hey, you know, I understand that you really like this boy and you have feelings for him and you think, you know, this is the one.
Yeah.
And I was there, you know, I'm a young person, I've been a young person, your parents have been young people, and if they did not control those feelings at that moment, they would not perhaps have been here where they are at this moment in time. And you're telling them, look, your education is going to be derailed. You are going to be a child who's looking after a child. And tell them, look, a child comes with responsibilities. They come with bills. If you do not share this message with them, then that is not what, I mean, that is sensitization for me. So I do not even get the gist of what they're talking about. But I think people just like viewing us from a place where they just, you know, call us pigs and just, you know, label us and just put us in a box. And from my own perspective, you know, I had a personal friend in when I was young, and she was actually always on top. Like, she was always number one and I'd be number 2 or 3. And I can tell you, I feel so burdened by the fact that, you know, she didn't perhaps have someone to mentor her. I had someone to mentor me. I had someone that I was looking up to. I had someone who grounded me, right? I had someone who offered me that mentorship. And she got a child when she was young. Now I think she has 4 or 3 kids. You know, I go shags. I feel so sad because she was so brilliant. She didn't even get to sit her KCPE. I want to ensure that I have mentored as many young people as I can in Kirinyaga County for them to feel and to see that they can get somewhere. There's something better for them, that they don't really have to be young mothers.
Another one, and you can also chime in on that. Mitch, the retoucher, says, but Mark, on the issue of climate change, waheshimiwas, can they start by using fewer motorcades because they don't need all that?
I don't even have a motorcycle. I only have a 1 car, actually. And prior to that, I didn't even have any car, you know, and I do not even mind using Uber or taking walks sometimes if the distance is short. I mean, so I think that one is completely out of touch. And, you know, what I can say for climate change is we need a clear action plan that involves the people on the ground. And I had a meeting with the PS Forestry, and we had robust discussions around how we can involve women's groups and incentivize climate change, because from the local perspective, you really have to make people feel that they're also getting something from it. I do not believe in just coming from Nairobi, going planting a tree in Ushago. You know, you don't know who is watering that tree. You don't even check on it. You know, I don't do things for PR. And it is okay for people to judge us collectively. It is okay for someone to have a different opinion. You know, social media, people just throw whatever it is that they can. But if someone takes time to understand your work and see the campaigns you've been running, even before elected politics, I think then they have a different judgment to give.
Paul Shinsky says, by the way, uko na gari ngapi?
Mimi?
Retouch anauliza.
Mimi natumia gari moja. Natumia, unajua unaweza kuwa na gari 4 lakini unatumia gari moja. I'm telling you.
Paul Chinsky says, the framework post-legislation will be really key. The framework should be added to the job description, for instance, of the chief. If there's nothing showing up at the least lowest school, whether you're talking about the sanitary pads and what have you, the county commissioner should be held liable. Hakuna kulala.
I agree with that. And one thing I want to tell him is that right now we are working with an NGO from the US. I'm working with an NGO from the US on bringing sanitary towel dispensers. And they were like, Gloria, we've seen your campaign. We want to bring for you, I don't know how many thousands of sanitary towel dispensers. I told them, what is that? Me, I've never seen a sanitary towel dispenser. Have you ever seen I've seen a condom dispenser. I've never seen a sanitary towel dispenser. So they sent me pictures. I was like, that's a very good idea. Then I asked, how are we going to be refilling? They took me through it. Then they said, but now we need to know that it's sustainable, so that we are not just doing work that's not sustainable. I said, fun, if you ask me, I can't put those things on the streets. Because people will take that stuff
be vandalized,
and they will sell them. And then the metal will be sold for scrap. So they were like, oh, really? I said, yeah, it's the reality. So we need to work with like social halls, churches, and chiefs. That's where chiefs came in. Because everybody goes to a chief. Anyone can access a chief and the chief's office. And the chief's office is secure. So for me and my vision and the bigger vision in terms of how the civil society can come in, when we roll out that program, it's about adopt a sanitary towel dispenser.
Right.
We are the ones who are going to keep filling them up and figure out where that's coming from. But then for me, the chiefs, and then the women reps. The problem we've been having with the distribution of sanitary towels from the Ministry of Education, nobody knows who distributes them. Literally, some officers go, Nini, the procurement is done, it goes, like the monitoring of the same was so difficult. Now, we want to work hand in hand with the women reps because, first of all, it's a gender issue. Second, we are going to somehow pass that information informally. That pads zinaletwa na women rep wako. Wacha women rep wako aende kwa Ministry of Gender and make sure that pads for your county have actually been brought. Because that way we will hold the women rep. If you're having issues, yes, we will hold the women rep because it's not money they're spending. It's actually their oversighting and implementation of a project that is going to their county. So basically, it will be their duty to make sure whoever is going down to distribute, they're distributing. We never had that before. So there was no one who was being held accountable. A woman rep mwambie saizi, hiyo kitu tunakuwekea, it's on your head. Let me tell you, they will make sure that it goes to where it's supposed to go because 2027 is just next door. So people will say, wewe hata pads hatujaona hapa. And other counties, they have received their pads. So there's a way we have to actually bring it down to the chief, down to the area, what do you call them, the nyumba kumi in charge person, because at the end of the day, the people who don't have access to sanitary towels are on that level. They're really down on the grassroots.
Okay, and a really quick one here, and this again is an account that is written in Chinkoso sielewi sana, but anauliza, and this is actually speaking to how to localize and make it, but I believe even watu wa mashinani wanaelewa menstrual cycle nini, lakini anauliza tafsiri ya period poverty kwa Kiswahili ni Wakenya hawaelewi hiyo lugha ya kuandika NGO report.
Shida ya
hedhi. Yeah, muda wa hedhi, shida ya hedhi. I believe that, but is that the problem? Like watu hawaelewi.
You know, the problem, wacha niongea kwa Kiswahili, shida ni kuwa hedhi iko, lazima watu wapate periods. Shida ambayo wako nayo si ati hawapati ama zinatoka zikikwama. Shida ni how to deal with the periods around that time. Kwa hivyo menstrual hygiene products, forget even sanitary towels. Kuna mahali pengine unapata mtu anakuambia wacha nikuletee reusable sanitary towels. Alafu unamuuliza wataosha na maji gani? Wataosha na maji gani? Ebu enda huko Ijara, Garissa, kuna maji. Unapelekea mtu reusable, ataosha vipi? Yeye mwenyewe kujiosha ni shida, hakuna maji. So there are two challenges is the menstrual hygiene comes around provision of water, provision of basic facilities, toilets, you know. In areas like okay, let me not mention, in some areas in Kenya now 2023, girls dig holes and sit there. There are no toilets. So you sit on the hole. You sit on the hole and then you know, okay, this is TMI. I know to you, Mark, it's too much information. But like
it helps someone appreciate.
Like now on Valentine's Day, me now, that was like my most heavy day. Like I could bleed liters. So on those days at the beginning, literally you could use like 3-4 pads depending on how your flow is. So it makes more sense to someone who does not have access to pads or any other product to actually dig up a hole somewhere under a tree and sit over it and bleed in peace. Instead of figuring out how many old clothes I'm going to wrap up, put under and keep changing or throwing away or whatever. It just makes sense. That's how they've chosen to deal with it based on the circumstances. In prisons right now, you'll have a prisoner who will use their pad. And then because they're on their light flow, and now maybe me, I'm on my light flow and Njeri has started today. So, you know, when you're on light flow, you won't really soak up the pad kabisa. So, nitatoa, sazile najua, it's not coming too much, I can handle without it. Then I pass the same pad to Njeri. Njeri wears it. Because now, Njeri is on her heavy flow. This is happening, by the way, here. When people are saying, let's not talk about it, features of it, it's just up here, within our surroundings. Forget even the prisons. If you go down, we went to talk to some girls in Kibera, and they took us to where they operate. Who they'll tell you, like one of them told me, mimi niliingia kazi ya sex work kwa sababu akona siblings watatu younger who are girls. It's either yeye afanye hiyo kazi apate pesa to buy the products, or they all get into sex work when they start their periods. So she took one for the team. So now she's a commercial sex worker. Occasionally, when she gets her 700 shillings, she will buy the pads for the month. Then she will do the sex work now, maybe for food, or the sex work for water, because she still has to buy water.
Yep.
So, and these are not isolated situations that, oh my goodness, that's one in a million. These are things that are happening in this our country.
Right.
I'm talking about girls sitting in holes so that they can bleed, and then they cover with the nini tomorrow. Then and then, you know, in some when people are saying kimila zetu, and this is the argument by those who felt that me walking in the stained pants was wrong, they say that the African culture is that we have to, you know, our dignity is in our privacy and all that thing around, don't talk about your periods. And you know, in some cultures, the same kind of thinking is that when you start having your periods, you can't sleep in your mother's house. So when you have your period, you can't sleep in your mother's house. So what does that do? You have to find a place to sleep, right? Mm-hmm. So you are literally pushing for girls to go have sex. Because wherever they're going to find to sleep, someone will say, ndio ulale hapa, I have to have sex with you.
Right.
So some of these cultures, and I liked what Waziri said. I was in one function where Waziri Aisha Juma said, yes, we have African cultures, but she was talking about FGM. And she was trying to tell them, in the past, we had laws take off 6 teeth. I don't know how many up, how many down. And everyone, like the Luo community in Gefika Mahali, you've reached the age, they go, they knock off your teeth, right? Yep. And then she asked the crowd, how many Luos do you see now without teeth? Because they realized the culture is harmful. Yeah. We can't eat, we can't do what, blah, 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 all these other complications that come afterwards, gum diseases, blah, blah, blah. So they slowly realized this culture is crap, actually, and it's actually affecting our lives. So they dropped it. In the same sense, the culture of shaming periods and making menstruation a big secret, it's actually the reason we have all these teenage pregnancies, the reason we have all these other domino effects. Yes. And now we are saying it might have been our culture, but it's not good for us, so we need to drop it.
Right.
Yeah.
And now we have to wrap it up, and I'd just like to give an opportunity to, and thank you for, you know, just kufumbua some of these issues.
Do you have daughters?
I have a daughter, yes.
One daughter?
Yes.
Can you imagine your daughter borrowing a pad from a used pad?
No, I can't. I don't want to imagine that from Nashipa.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And because it's the only thing, that's what she has to do.
Yes.
And all the infections and the stigma, everything around it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I totally appreciate, that's why we have you on the show. Beyond ile siasa iko, and tungeongea hata pia juu ya government
or your
opposition.
Wife. Can you imagine your wife?
Hapo hata iwezi.
Your wife has to go to the neighbor to borrow the pad that the neighbor has used.
But you've converted me. Me, I'm on your side.
I can't even picture it.
You get, I need people to picture it that way, because it's really that way. It's like, oh, they'll be like, no, I'm on my periods, but my pads are finished. Wacha nikaambie jirani, jana alikuwa ametumia but alikuwa on a light flow, so aliniwekea zingine akanifunikia. Then nivae hizo. No.
Niko na wewe. I'm on your side. But just to wrap it up, you said your campaign, you just tell people what your campaign is going to be doing in the next 90 days. Will it last after the 90 days, and how can they support you?
My campaign is called Triple Action Campaign. It's going to be on mental health, SGBV, and teenage pregnancies. We're going to be reaching out to school children. We're going to be reaching out to churches, to women in their chamas, and basically we are going to be running it for the 90-day, like I've said, and trying as much as we can to get it to as many people as we can.
Right.
My campaign will be done yearly. It's something that I have decided to do on an yearly basis. So the next year we'll also be having a 90-day campaign, because we have all these other issues that I have to deal with as a county MP that we'll now get onto. The next year we'll also be having that, and we'll launch a mentorship program. So what I can ask as of now, even though people will say we're trying to write it on a way or whatever, I have to do it. And that is the truth on the ground, that people are facing mental health issues. We have high-rise cases of teenage pregnancies. I remember there's a time we had, you know, the data on social media, and people were just so offended by it. And I want to tell people the truth is naked. Whether you face it or not, it is naked, and people like to face away from things that are naked, right? They want to look away. It is shameful. It is something we should not talk about. We should talk about it in harsh to low tones. But we're here, and we're here to shape the future. And I am not afraid of facing and shaping that future. You can support our campaign through our office. We haven't set up a fund because, Mark, like you've said, people seem to think of it as something, as a way of you exploiting or enriching yourself. So the structure that we have right now, we reached out to Coca-Cola has come on board, National Assembly is supporting us a bit, and the county office, which I run and which I'm the patron. So basically we don't have a structured support from maybe individuals. But what I can say is once we launch, we'll be now having a fund and setting up an endowment fund with KCDF to sponsor, to give full sponsorship for kids in Kirinyaga County who've maybe been affected by those issues and who need mentorship. So we're going to be reaching out, and these are conversations we'll have every year as much as we can so that we can get it to as many people as possible and push for framework for mental health in Kenya.
The Triple Action Campaign, it launches on Saturday, the 4th?
Yes.
Where? What time?
It launches in Kirinyaga County, Mutira Ward. We're going to be at People's Church, and you're all welcome. We're going to have a walk around Kagumo. We're going to have media attention on it. And then for the 90 days, we will have a team of professionals go to schools and to churches and to women's chamas to talk to them about it.
Thank you so much. And to Mheshimiwa Gloria Orwoba, I don't believe there's a launch date. You launched it already.
You can't
and there's no 90 days.
Like you never know. Like,
you never know, right?
Yes. Like you can't launch this thing. It's just nature.
Right. But how are you going about it for the next?
You know, I've been thrown into this space of a campaign that I'm running to end period poverty and period shame. And I would say, honestly, the support has been immense. And I'm not calling out for support per se, but those who feel, and there are organizations, the organizations that have already been doing things that are in line would definitely want to be part of the conversation in how I have brought it to the limelight. So what we are currently doing, people are reaching out through my social media handles, and we are booking appointments, seeing areas of collaboration, because there are so many actors. There are people who've been in this space forever, and they're just happy that the voice has been amplified. So they're like, what can we do in partnership? So for me, I'm open to receiving pads. Physical pads. And I keep telling people, by the way.
How does it get to you?
If you have 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 packets of pads, don't call me, don't reach out to me. Wherever you live, go to the school where you live. Give those pads. The logistics of you reaching out to me and coming to me with those pads is just, with what we are trying to do, the impact will be high if you can just distribute it around your community, or, you know, just the church that you go to, or where there is need, because you can always find need. And if the issue is about me highlighting the work that they're doing, I always tell them, send me pictures, and then I'll highlight on my pages, oh, so-and-so is doing ABCD. But there are organizations who want to scale that up. Like we are talking to some organizations who want to go further, like Northeastern and areas where they're dealing with the drought and food and just a whole other dynamic. And they're trying to see how, when they go to give the care packages in terms of the food and how can they add the sanitary towels into it. So that's a whole other dynamic that we're dealing with. But for now, the greatest supporters that I have found very impactful have been the guys putting up the billboards. I'm telling you, you know why?
I love the billboards. I love them.
Because one thing, if it wasn't for the advocacy and the noise, everybody just sort of forgot that we are having periods. Like, people are like, like, that's so 2019. No, we're having periods. So those guys who are actually putting together the billboards, I'm like, wow.
Like, so these actual billboards, like end period shaming.
The first person who was like, you know what, I might be far away, but I know that this conversation needs to go on, and we have to end period shaming with the stigma and everything around it. So they had seen a picture of me in that T-shirt when we went to talk to some girls a while back in Kibera. They had seen that picture because I had put it in a few pages when people asked me, "Unafanya nini Kibera?" way earlier, you know?
This same T-shirt.
That same T-shirt. So there's a photo, if you go online, there's a photo of me somewhere in Kibera and I'm sort of doing something, and then the T-shirt can be seen. So this particular individual who put up the first billboard was like, you see that T-shirt? Go wear that T-shirt, go take a picture in studio and send it to me. Then I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, just do it. So I actually found time. I went to the nikapiga nikamtumia nikamwambia haya nimekutumia. Akaniambia email me ndio ikuje high definition. So I was like, what's this guy up to? The next thing, he sends me a picture.
Coco billboard.
Yeah, and then he tells me, there you go. This is, we need to shout about it. And that is on Landis Road. That was the first one. Yes.
Okay.
Actually, these billboards, most of them are gentlemen. Okay. Actually, all of them. We have 5 now.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
It's all gentlemen. They're like, Gloria, I've seen the other billboard. Sinikuwekea moja hapa. I'm like, mi unaniwekea billboard kwa nini? Unawekea watu.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, siniweke ndio watu waone and they end this thing and maybe they can bring pads and whatever. So that's been really helpful because it's also through the billboards that people who don't understand what period shaming is, they start asking and then it's like an information. What is this about? It's like, oh, you know, people have periods, you don't need. So the stigma and the shame is ending. I would say, however way you can feel, you can plug in. I'm open. I've been talking to everyone from everywhere.
Come on, Nado, because to be honest, there's a type of way a man feels when he goes to that section of the supermarket.
Yes.
And I say, this is a confession. The few times I've been the one doing the house shopping, na kuna hiyo kwa list, naangalia kando kuna mtu anaona, naiweka hapo.
That's what we are trying to
I know, I confess.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, I confess. So for someone who would...
For someone who wants to purchase like wholesale, so you
can give you the money.
You can reach out to me, you can give me the money through the same way to tumepatana to people I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's the professional site. I'm active on Facebook. I know there are some parodies, but you can be able to tell the real Facebook. And I'm not very active, but I'm a bit active on Twitter.
Okay.
So they can reach out to me, and we are working with some of the, I'm really trying to promote the local manufacturers.
Yeah.
So we're working with some of them who've given me good rates so that in case someone wants to buy, you don't have to go to the supermarket and buy it retail.
Yes.
Then I direct you to the local manufacturers. They have good rates, wholesale. Good. And then I figure out the logistics around it. You don't have to figure out pickups and what. I figure out the logistics. That's part of what I'm doing for the movement.
Right.
And the other thing is, I would say support the different actors in the space who are already doing it. There's so many people who have been in this space that I don't need to start. I can't carry the whole period poverty thing on my back.
You don't want to be the star.
I don't even want to be that. I mean, thank you for the billboards. I appreciate. But I feel like and that's why I'm partnering with different organizations. There's a period party coming up, by the way. I didn't even know that there were period parties. Even me, that was a learning moment.
Okay.
So the period party is like a gathering of teenagers, teenage girls.
Okay.
It's very, it's organized by a lady called Mama Bobo. You know Mama Kebobo?
Mama Kebobo.
So she reached out to me like, please come for my period party. I was like, period party? I didn't know. So then I went to do some research and like, oh, so they do mentorship around girls who are just getting into puberty.
Yeah.
And she does it every year.
Wow.
So those kind of initiatives, I mean, why would I want to start my own period party really? This person has gotten it square.
Yeah.
So those kind of initiatives, I would say just, you know, support them in one way or another. If they reach out to you, they say they need ABCD, because it's helping in the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on my end, legislative-wise, I got that.
Right.
I'm handling that.
And you're committing to it.
That's my full responsibility. Walisema walinieka Senate for legislation. That is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, having conversations with the president and Waziri. Waziri, by the way, Aisha Juma is very much on this. She might not be that vocal, but she's very much on this. Like, in terms of budgeting, we were pushing together with her. In terms of ensuring we have the women reps coming to play oversight on distribution. You know, she's a former women rep, so she knows. In terms of even how do we push local money, she's on it completely. And so, in terms of having conversations with those leaders, I'm already doing that. The president is 100% on board. And I would say that's just one of the great things about William Ruto, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because without the political goodwill, tulizama kitambo, we could be bleeding over there in the corner, suffering.
Forgotten. Suffering and forgotten.
Suffering and forgotten. But he's very much on board on it. And the Women Charter that we made him sign is also squarely dealing with this particular issue.
All right.
Yeah.
And I wish you, grace and wisdom and power as you do
Na pad
this.
zangu ziko hapo nje?
Sasa simekuambia do. Ndo nikulizia story ya do.
Unataka
Hapo
kunitumia
umeniambia there are
pesa?
those retailers, wholesalers about yes. Sababu tajiangalia hivi kuna kaa sio ananiangalia nikinunua.
We want you to get to a space where you can walk in, go directly to that shelf
And just carry.
and pick panty liners, pads, OBs and whatever, and then reach to the counter until people look at you and they're like, kwani uko na wasichana wangapi kwa nyumba? And you tell them, niko na msichana mmoja lakini anakuanga na flow heavy. That should be a conversation that's absolutely normal to have.
Give me time. Thank you to Senator Gloria Orwoba. Thank you to Mheshimiwa Njeri Maina for your time, for sharing your story. And again, we really appreciate the courage that you showed running up to the elections, even after losing Pops. He's proud of you. And keep doing what you're doing for the people of Kirinyaga.
Yeah.
Yes,
You lost my dad during the like, so we need to catch up on that.
Yeah, we do.
Actually,
we have a lot.
You lost your
I
dad?
lost my dad right before party primaries.
Wow, last year?
Yeah.
Wow, me
January 12th.
And you decided to still...
Yeah, I had to
Yeah,
go
we
on
have a
big
lot to catch up on, I see.
Yeah.
Strength of a woman.
Strength of a
I
woman.
appreciate you. I appreciate you guys and all the best in your initiatives. And at Social Newsroom, we appreciate such initiatives. That's why we're talking to them. We're having the conversation. We thank you for giving us your time. And touch some nerves. Hapo mtuangalia kwa the conversation section.
I'm certain we have quite a lot to take in.
So, but that's not new to you. Anyway, all the best. All the
Thank
best,
you.
ladies. And thank you for watching. Thank you for contributing. Thank you to the team that is behind the scenes here making this possible. And make sure you have an episode every Monday. That's the Social Newsroom. And we'll be back here on Monday. Na Okari atakuja. She insisted on calling me Dennis. So let that be a sign that you were missed here, Dennis Okari. So, but thank you. Thank you so much. Have yourselves a good night and take care.